The Delta, an expansive estuary, a community and region unto itself that supports family farms, commerce, wildlife habitat, recreation, fishing, and much more. Located at the western edge of the Central Valley, the Delta is formed by the confluence of the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers, with major input from the American, Cosumnes, and Mokelumne rivers. This unique ecosystem has been a topic of concern for many years, but recently the debate over the health of the Delta has reached a fevered pitch. Facts have been replaced by propaganda, and targeted media campaigns are driving the conversation. Simply put, there's a great deal of confusion over what is really happening in the Delta. In order to understand and address the problems responsibly, we need to sort out lies from the truth, to separate fact from fiction. Even more than the proverbial canary in a mine shaft, Delta fish populations are a key indicator of the Delta's health. The near extinction of certain fish has rightly set off alarm bells and stirred up this heated public debate. So what is killing the Delta fish and causing significant harm to this treasured ecosystem? Let's start by looking at how this complex waterway works. Water from upstream rivers in the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys flow together to form the Delta estuary. Its natural course runs into the San Francisco Bay and out to the Pacific Ocean. The ocean tides affect the Delta's amount of salt, speed, clarity, and temperature of the water, which constantly changes. The Delta supplies fresh water to select urban and agricultural users through a series of pumping facilities and canals. During the wet season, there's plenty of water for all of our needs, with enough to continue the natural flow towards the ocean. But during dry periods, we clearly see the biggest problems. When the water flow is low and the pump demand for water is high, the natural flow of water to the ocean is affected, and salt water from the San Francisco Bay pushes further up into the freshwater channels of the Delta. This water condition affects the health of the river and its wildlife. Another unnatural condition is the presence of invasive species of fish, plants, and aquatic wildlife that harm the Delta's natural inhabitants.
Invasive species over time have come from a whole different number of sources. One source, for example, of clams that didn't exist here before, comes in with ballast water of ships that come from other countries, and the invasive species then take hold here. The effect of the clams is to remove certain food sources that work their way up the entire food chain. And so anything in the food chain that needs that is going to be impacted. And there are impacts to the Delta smelt. There are impacts to other species too. It's a system-wide effect.
Predators like the striped bass feed on the smelt, which adds to their decline. Another major contributor is the pumps themselves. These pumps create a strong current, and fish are lost in staggering numbers to pump screens or salvage operations. Since the Clean Water Act was passed in 1972, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has implemented programs that regulate the quality of water released into U.S. waterways. Accusations that treatment plants are unregulated and dump untreated sewage into the Delta are simply lies.
Well, the United States Environmental Protection Agency is the one who comes up with the different criteria that are incorporated into the permits. So they will come up with a water quality criteria, which then gets adopted at a state level. Once those criteria are adopted, the Regional Water Quality Control Board then looks at the criteria, looks at what's in the treated wastewater, and makes sure that those levels are protective of the environment and public health. Our wastewater treatment plants work very, very hard to comply with regulations and take that very seriously. And with that, if they do not comply with a permit, they are subject to fines, different penalties, or different types of actions, enforcement actions.
Wastewater treatment plants are operated by wastewater professionals. They have to be certified by the state certification agencies. And in order to qualify for that certification, they need to have significant training. They need to understand mathematics, biology, chemistry, hydraulics, and then they need to take a state certification exam and pass that exam in order to be certified to be able to operate wastewater treatment facilities.
Recent campaigns of unidentified murky waterways and flowing storm drain outlets are being offered as proof of poor wastewater practices. Claims that the wastewater treatment plants and the lack of treatment are the main cause of the Delta's decline are just wrong.
Two systems are commonly referred to as sewer systems. The outlets for the stormwater sewers are generally at water level, so if you're out recreating, you may see these outlets, and this is just rainwater that's running into the streams and the rivers. Whereas the wastewater treatment plant outlets are submerged on the bottom of the river, and you will never see those.
Our treatment plants also do different type of monitoring on very sensitive either fish species, plant life, or aquatic insects. And that monitoring is very important because it tells us whether or not we're going to cause any damage in the environment. Fish tend to be much more sensitive than humans.
So the last test that we run on our treated effluent is a continuous flow-through bioassay where we constantly sample effluent that we're discharging to the river, run it through 2 test tanks with 20 fish in those tanks. We test every day, and at the end of the week, the goal is to have all 20 fish remaining in the tanks.
We are very fortunate to have an excellent lab located at the treatment plant. The lab is staffed with scientists of various sorts, biologists and chemists, and they measure all sorts of chemicals that could potentially be in the water.
If you would look at wastewater effluent, you'd be surprised at how clean it is. Everyone is concerned about the decline in the Delta. What we want to make sure is that we get the good science out there and decisions are based upon sound science versus fear or other things that are just portrayed that may not be true.
Testing water for many chemicals before and after it's released is done regularly and often. One of the most unfounded assertions being promoted is that ammonia is killing the Delta fish.
In the last couple of years, much has been said about ammonia levels in the river and the impact that could be having on Delta fish populations. A lot of research has been done. In fact, really strong evidence exists that ammonia is not causing toxicity to Delta fish species, and that would include Delta smelt, salmon, and other sensitive species. Ammonia is basically in human waste. So treatment plants remove it to varying degrees. And that's been an issue for some people, that they think everybody ought to remove all the ammonia that they can. The difference about Sacramento, we cannot tell ratepayers that that would produce a benefit. We do know that it would be very costly and would impact rates wherever that step was taken.
For more information and a complete education on the wastewater treatment process, visit our website at srcsd.com. Don't let special interest parties distract your attention with fiction. The fact is, pumping operations do have an impact on the Delta ecosystem. The stakes are too high to waste time blaming others. We all use the same water.
We are continuing to get a better understanding of what is actually happening in the ecosystem. The key to moving forward is figuring out how we balance all of these needs. We need to rely on the science to help us make rational decisions so that we really can serve the greater good of California.